It is now time to take a look at some planned enhancements to our game, and by following my starting guide, all I want to do is add enhanced visuals and background images for my UI screens. I only have 3 levels, so this part won't be too intense. I've done a couple enhancements already. I made these little spikes, which are touch and die blueprints, and my coins now rotate, but the rest of the game plays the same, and the level is identical. The blueprint is pretty simple. It's right in the coins blueprint. Create a variable with the rotator type. I called mine rotation. From there you'll want to find the begin play event node. Then you can use the get world rotation node for the cylinder as the rotation value. Then I used a timeline node which handled the actual rotation. If you double click on the timeline node, it should bring up the actual timeline. This just times the change in my value. I have a keyframe on the left set to -180, and a keyframe on the right set to +180, and the length is 2 seconds. You can add keyframes by right-clicking to change the subtleties of the animation, or just simply leave it like this. If you don't see the graph, click the V+ icon, which will add a new vector graph. Drag off the Update Executable pin to set world rotation. Use the cylinder as the target, and let's update the new rotation with the new track pin. If you don't see the X, Y, and Z, just right-click and split the struct pin. It'll break out into X, Y, and Z. Drag off the new track pin into a float plus float. Then get your rotation variable and split it into X, Y, and Z structs. Drag the Z rotation and plug it into the float plus float node. The X and Y go right into the new set world rotation node, along with the addition of the floats into the Z axis. We will add a comment to find this later. As a best practice, always comment your code. Now let's take a look at what I did for these cones. I just added 4 cones with the red material, and like the other blueprint, it's just a simple cast to 2D character and set is dead. Each cone is its own component, so you do need an overlap node for each cone component to set the isDead variable on overlap. Now I can give my level a little more interest. I can actually add as many of these touch and die blueprints as I feel like. Remember, our goal is to add advanced visuals. Having a spike design like this is a good way to give the player the indication that touching this would surely be detrimental. I want it to make some sense. Like if you jump into this one, you'll die, and I'll Bob Ross this one over here. Maybe there's a happy little touch and die over here. This should give the player some sense of risk. Looks like that's up against the wall. It's not very threatening, but does work as intended. I feel like there should be something in this gap. All I have to do is duplicate the touch and die blueprint and give it a different particle or skin. The box already exists, so if I add something like a particle system component, the same blueprint will work perfectly. Now this idea I have here is dangerously close to violating something called the rule of cool, which is just adding things that you think are cool to your game, and if you do that too much, your game can become unrecognizable. Avoid that by having a plan. I think fire will work here. Everyone knows not to touch fire. Simple to change the direction of the smoke plume. That might be kind of cool in the game, and this is just the default fire particle system. And I'm just going to size the box to be about the size of the fire, but not overdo it, because sometimes you can move around flames without getting burned. That sure is a lot of smoke. Oh, that's a lot of smoke. Definitely adds a sense of complexity I'm starting to like. I'm not trying to die here, this is genuine. Okay, not too bad so far. First I noticed something, and that's in the Game Over UI. The retry button is always visible. So let's change that on the construct event node. Cast to var storage and get the lives variable, and use the greater than Boolean test into a branch node. Off the false pin, drag into set visibility of the retry button to hidden. The only way to get a good test of this is to just go ahead and die 3 times. Let's see if that does it. Yep. There we go. So now the retry button is only visible if the player has lives remaining. Let's use a double equal instead. If lives equal 0, then we can hide this button. As always, add comments and you'll thank yourself later. Let's move on to the graphics of the UI widgets. Ideally, you'll spend some time in a graphics editor creating these, but honestly, for this little project, it's not a top priority, so let's plug in any material to use as a background. Let's open the start screen level and add a background image to this widget. Here I have my starting level open and my start screen widget. And look, I found the perfect background image for the start screen. It's right in the images dropdown called 2D background. And for this game it works perfectly. There's even a perfect spot at the top there for some text. I'll just add the touch and die text and be happy. This is working out well, so now we'll tackle the other 2 widgets. All I want to do is find an image that came with the starter content. I don't really care which one, it can be pretty basic. I'm happy with the X graphic, like 3 strikes almost. And the same for level complete. The artistry here isn't super important, and there we go, I like the gold shiny screen. Oops, I died, and there's my death UI graphic. Now I'll try and win for real so I can see my new touch and win screen. That's a lot of smoke, and I have this coin that's impossible, so I'll take care of that coin. I can't click on it because of its position, but in the outline I can select them individually. This is a useful trick if you end up with a lot of assets in your level. After one last playtest, we can run through some of the enhancements and see that everything I expect to happen is happening. Next, we'll add some sound effects.